We're live. We are live on X, Twitter, whatever you call it right now. BYU wins its fifth straight game, 10-point win, 91-81 over the Arizona State Sun Devils. The depleted Arizona State Sun Devils. BYU gets the win. They sweep the desert. They sweep the state of Arizona on the road. Chase, initial thoughts from tonight.
Initial thoughts, it's a good win. I know we had a lot to say about Arizona State. They're not having a great season. They're nowhere near the tournament team. They were super depleted. Look, a road win in the Big 12 is a good win. Arizona State is, and I mean this as a compliment, annoying, and they are frisky, and they are physical, and they're playing at home. And so anytime you walk away unscathed, especially on a 2-game road trip to the state of Arizona, no less, huge win for the Cougs. Obviously the big win in Arizona and Arizona State. They are in the right place, peaking at the right time, playing their best basketball right now. Tonight was just another insane display of offense, particularly from Richie Saunders, Trevor Nell, and all the three-point shooters, really. And I thought it was a great performance again. I mean, there's still things to clean up. And like we kind of talked about before in our preview, we did think that this was going to be a bit of an uglier game. And there were some parts, especially there in the second half, it was a little ugly defensively. A lot of fouls, got a little choppy there, a little chippy as well, elbows and, flagrant reviews left and right. So it was ugly, but sometimes you need those ugly wins, right? Build up those scars, build up those calluses. BYU continues to stay ready and continues to get big wins.
Absolutely. This is another huge win, and you mentioned it, the offense tonight. That's the story of tonight. Look, the coaches are going to want to grind on the defensive. They're going to watch this defense on tape and be like, what were we doing tonight? How did we let a team that depleted come in and shoot like that against us and score 81 points? But that's a different story. The story tonight is the offense. You look at the stats here, Chase. 17 of 34 from three. And also, this game could have looked a lot worse if BYU shot better from the free throw line. 6 of 15 is a disgusting, pathetic number. 6 of 15 is unacceptable. 40% from the line, multiple missed front end of 1-and-1s, but it doesn't matter. You win by 10. Who cares? You shot 54% from the field, 50% from three. Richie Saunders, I mean, him and Trevor Nell tonight alone, they went 11 of 17 from three tonight. Trevor Nell, 5 of 6. Shout out my MVP pick. We said, hey, he's due for a 5 3-point game. We finally got one.
Yeah, you were dead on that. This BYU team is kind of like a paradox. I don't know how you shoot better from three than you do from the free throw line. I don't know how you shoot under 50% in a game from the free throw line ever. I mean, that's the problem in of itself. But the fact you just, at this point, you trust a Richie Saunders 3 more than you trust any single BYU player at the free throw line is kind of insane. But here we are, and I guess when you knock down that many threes, it makes up for it. But it's got to be figured out. I think they really had figured it out. I think they were shooting a lot better from the line over the last few games that have helped them win. Obviously, Arizona, it ended up giving them the win with those clutch free throws from Richie. But tonight was like regressed all the way back to that problem. But hey, you still win, and it's still you're still fighting on, and you made up for it. But still not pretty. Like, make your free throws. It's hard to watch.
That's what I was say. Make your free throws. Let's run to the chat real quick. Shout out Brockman Chris. Shout out everybody in the chat right now at Brockman Chris on Twitter. Quad 1 win on the road by double digits while not playing our best. I'll take it. Absolutely. Arizona State, 60th in the net. Double-digit win on the road. Just keep adding to the resume for BYU. Beef up that resume, and hopefully, eventually, you might see yourself, on that 6-seed line. That's a real possibility at this point. Let's keep going through the chat right now. At ABeach319, shocked that punch was reviewed and nothing was given. The defense needs some help, but that three-point shooting is unreal. Shocked that punch wasn't reviewed. I couldn't believe when they went to their monitor. I was like, oh, this is a flagrant 2. He's ejected. He's done for the night. I thought that was a bona fide, clear, flagrant 2 foul.
Me too. I don't think I'm biased when I say that. I don't know what you could do worse. Like you threw a punch, maybe it didn't land the way you intended, but that was clearly like, look at Trevin Nell rear back and throw a punch at his face, and they're like, you can stay in, just don't do it again. Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I would have called it different, but it's whatever. It was a chippy game. It was weird. I thought the officiating, like, I wouldn't call it bad. It was just like odd. I couldn't figure it out. I don't
think I could figure this game out at this point. It was just a weird, wonky game. Yeah. I think kind of what we said in the preview, Chase, correct me if I'm wrong, but this kind of seemed like a forgettable win. Like, I feel like a couple weeks from now, we're not going to remember this game that much, other than Richie Saunders once again going bananas. But that's all started to that's kind of becoming the norm.
It is becoming the norm. Like, it's funny. I haven't picked Richie as my MVP all season, and that's not like a detriment to him. I've just expected him to keep doing his thing, and I'm trying to be different. Maybe I have picked him once or twice.
I was about to say,
but like, I should just start picking him every single time, because the things that he's doing on a nightly basis are unheard of. And it is a forgettable win. You know, it ended up being only by 10, which I think looks worse. Like, box score wise, you might go back and be like, oh, they only won that game by 10 to an Arizona State team. They're not even going NIT or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they do go NIT, but it obviously was a lot more than that, and it felt like more than that. They just hit those buckets late, and BYU left so much on the free throw line. But yeah, it's not one we're going to be talking about for a while. Look, it is quad one on the road. It's very good. Business trip. You know what they say? Business trip to Arizona. The guy to hit the pool. I know you saw those pictures at them at the pool, Carter.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about this at the very end. A certain someone on the coaching staff sent me a picture. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah. This brings up a good point, though. Sorry.
I was going to go a little different direction in the chat, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was going to reach out anyway.
We'll go back to some earlier thoughts in the chat as well. Shout out Grant Farley at the Real Grant FA1. 5 straight boys, payback ×2 for the football stuff they pulled, and beating Arizona State by 30 points combined in the 2 games they played. Chase, I want to bring up this question. Would you give up those 2 Arizona State basketball wins for that 1 football win? I think most people would, without thinking.
Yes. What? They would have been able to go to the Big 12 championship, and the way it was played, they would have had a good shot. You can't say what would happen in that game. But yeah, absolutely. What? I don't think losing to Arizona State twice affects what this team's done, and they'd still go dancing. So 1,000 million %. And
that football game still stings, man.
Stings. It's the fact that it got drug out so long, and there was hope for that long too.
I think what makes it worse is that Iowa State was so depleted with their linebackers in that game, and you just go, man, if BYU would have gotten in that game and played against Iowa State, it would have been barbecue chicken for anybody going against that Iowa State team at that point.
I know, just like that Colorado game that we saw, right? And with that pass rush. Anyway. There's a couple other chats here. Travis Larson, 32. Fired off a few, said minus free throw shooting, a great game. Quad 1 win on the road is huge. Absolutely. Yeah, free throw shooting, got to figure it out. He says, just ask Iowa State against Oklahoma State. Really good point, right? Cyclones dropping unexpected one, Iowa State, and you never know. You can fall asleep on the road. BYU didn't here, and it was really impressive, especially, Carter, like, there were some moments there late with, like, the 5-minute mark, 7-minute mark. Arizona State tried to make some runs. Every single time, BYU responded with a big 3. It was a Dawson Hall, coming off a screen off the dribble. It was Richie Saunders from the corner. It was Moet Mag from the wing. Like, every time they responded, and it was just, that was the most impressive part. And if there's anything to take away from this game, I think it's the way that they were able to weather any sort of run Arizona State got to. I think it was like 9 was the closest they ever got. BYU just kept coming right back, hitting threes. And that's just the signs of a good team, being resilient, being able to hit big shots in big moments, not take timeouts, quiet the crowd with your play. That's it. I mean, they got that killer mentality right now. And obviously everything was falling, but incredible stuff.
What I loved in the second half, and you kind of touched on it, was whenever Arizona State would have just a little bit of momentum, bring it within 7 or something, bam, Richie 3. Okay, Arizona State brings it back. Oh, it's an 8-point game. Bam, Dawson Hall 3. It didn't matter. BYU did not let Arizona State back in this game, and that's something that we've seen BYU improve upon throughout the season. Is maybe earlier on in the season against a team like Ole Miss or something, they can't necessarily put them away, but now obviously it's a depleted Arizona State team, so there's not too much to take away from this. But those moments are big, especially the way Arizona State was hitting tonight. So I think that's huge. let's go back to the chat here. We got LJ in the chat. Is Richie Saunders first team all Big 12?
I think he is.
I don't see how he would not be, to be honest, for me, right?
At this point, I don't think so. I mean, I'd have to look at his averages and compare it to some other guys and really like sit down and see who the guards are, because that's how the Big 12 operates. I mean, he's going up against guys like LJ Cryer and VJ Edgecombe, like legit just dudes for that spot. I don't know, maybe he'd get the small forward position, but then again, a lot of guys there too. He is in my book, at the very least. I would be shocked if he wasn't. He's definitely second team lock for sure. But at this point, I think he's first team all Big 12. The way he's been playing, with things that they're doing, especially get the 4 seed. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, I think especially if they get that 4 seed and he has a big game against Iowa State on the road, and if they win that game in Iowa, I think the first team all Big 12 has a real chance. And you look at the other guys on here, Hunter Dickinson's probably going to get slotted in, but I mean, come on. Caleb Love, Curtis Jones from Iowa State, JT Toppin, Javon Small. Like a guy like Keyshawn Hall, great. You're averaging 19.1 per game. You're leading the conference, but you're sitting at 13th or so in the conference right now. So I think Richie would get the nod over someone like that, but remains to be seen. He's currently 7th right now. Before tonight, coming into tonight, he was 7th in the Big 12 in scoring.
I wonder, because for football, shout out us, we were Big 12 voters preseason, but then the postseason awards, they just pulled the coaches. Like that was it. I wonder if basketball's the same way. In which case it can always be wonky, because let's be honest, like coaches, like they coached against them, but I think they fill that out as fast as they can. And they might just look at box scores and just be like, whoever, whatever, just like, or they have their SID do it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, or the assistants doing it, or I would be very surprised if the coaches were all sitting there being like, I don't know, man, Caleb Love versus Hunter Dickinson. Like, was Hunter Dickinson putting up empty stats on the box score? Stuff like that.
Yeah, so, at the end of the day, like, I think he's definitely deserved that honor. But we'll see, man. We'll see. And whatever comes his way, he deserves. I mean, he's just an incredible dude right now. Luther kept going. LJ, he says, thoughts on the way Dawson Hall is playing. How about incredible? Tonight was just an awesome night for him. Karter, I love when he comes off of a screen, of that Foose screen, and he just gets the defender on his back and he does that decel.
Yeah, it's the Chris Paul.
Yep, and then Foose will seal and Dowell will just hit that lane for a layup, or he'll dump it off to Foose, or he'll find a guy open for 3. He is just doing like incredible stuff right now. And our guy Jack commented, he said Dawson Hall got that Hall of Fame floor general 2K badge. It really looks like that right now. Like the stuff he's doing is really impressive, and it's just a unique style to him. I mean, no one else is doing it on this team right now. And they obviously, the other point guards, Yegor and things like that, are doing other things that are just as good in different styles, but the stuff he's doing is really good. There's a lot of times when BYU had that lineup, it was like Dallin, you got Dawson in there, and then it was like Cannon, Trey Stewart, and Foose. And when you look at that lineup, you read the names, you're like, I don't know how this is working. I don't know if I love this very much, but they held their own. And that's a shout out to all those guys, but a special shout out to Dawson Hall for the way he was running that offense and playing tough defense against guys that he often gets switched on, right? And he holds his own.
Yeah, I think the number one thing I would talk about, thoughts on Dallin playing, is you can just feel the maturity when he has the ball in his hands. And I don't know if I'd necessarily say this, honestly, kind of up until this point in parts of last season, where I feel very comfortable with the ball in his hands. And I feel it's okay, everything's calmed down, it's not as frantic, unless the team, double teams or traps or whatever, then that's a different ordeal. But, in a game like tonight, when the ball got in his hands, you're like, okay, things are slowing down. He's seeing the game so much slower, and the game's coming to him way, way better now. And so I think I also think this role for him is perfect. They finally figured out how to use him where he's not playing this off-ball 2-guard in a way, because I don't think he's enough of a knockdown shooter. I think he has to have the ball in his hands a little bit more to be as effective. So, staggering these minutes between Yegor and Dallin, and even at times playing them together, Kevin Young and this coaching staff have really figured out how to play him within this team, and figured out how to play, honestly, everybody within this team at this point.
Yeah, the way that everyone fits, like I said, like that lineup, like if you look on paper, you're like, I don't know how this is working, but it is. And it's with Dallin especially. I said, honestly, like a month or maybe a month and a half ago, I was like, I miss the old Dallin. I miss the guy who was aggressive going to the basket. And ever since then, not saying it was my fault, but there is a correlation. I'm not gonna lie. Ever since I said that, he's been doing those things, and everyone can see the impact he's having, and he just makes the right passes every time, dude. Like the one where he was driving baseline, like he came off the screen, then just whips it to Trevin, top of the key. I think Trevin ended up getting fouled, went 1 for 3, but that's how the night went. Just incredible stuff from him. Incredible stuff.
Absolutely. Let's keep going back to the chat here. Shout out our guy, Clarkster Stu. Great follow on Twitter. Officiating was weird. Low-key kept ASU within reach in the second half. We could have won this one by 25 easily. Yeah, I think you could say that. On top of that, really, the thing you point to is, okay, well, you missed 9 free throws. All right, you got to be better than that. You can't shoot 40% from the line. I think, though, officiating was a little weird, but, game was did you ever feel at a point once in this game, even at the tip-off, that Arizona State had a chance in this one?
No, and that's a big credit to BYU, and I'm not trying to roast Arizona State, but BYU's clearly better.
They had no shot with how they were playing. I mean, you could tell once that about the 6-minute mark left of the second half, those guys were out of gas. They all had the Gatorade logo just staring above their heads.
Yeah. Exactly, and they said, I think they were saying that the broadcast, right, that Bobby Hurley canceled practice yesterday because he's like, none of these dudes are playing, so I gotta keep the legs fresh. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Our guy Alex Beach says, "Is it a requirement to verbally abuse refs in order to be an Arizona State head coach?" People are asking, or to be a Hurley, right?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, is it an Arizona State thing or is it a Hurley thing? I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B. Kenny Dillingham was in the building tonight too. Yeah, Bobby Hurley was going at it, man. Holy smokes. And some of those, I'm like, dude, you're really doing it for that one? Like the technical foul he got, I'm like, yeah, save that for a better one. I think he was just trying to pull out any trick he could out of the bag to keep his guys motivated and keep
his job.
And just keep the momentum going for these dudes and making sure, hey, we're not tired yet. We're not tired. We're staying in this one. So yeah, I think they did the best they could tonight, man. I mean, the fact that knowing what we know, where all these dudes were out, a bunch of dudes are sick or whatever, and they still scored 81 points on this BYU team and shot the way they did. Credit to them. I mean, there's dudes scoring their first career points tonight.
Yeah. With that cat's name 12, I think his name was
Best.
Something Best. I mean, I think he literally hadn't scored all season, and then all of a sudden goes for 20, and it's like, where do you, my man, shout out him for a great night. But yeah, it was that kind of night for Arizona State, and I really do think Hurley was coaching for his job. Fortunately, he probably doesn't have one, after this season.
Yeah.
And Alex Beach also said, so speaking of screens, because we were talking about it earlier, how about that Cannon screen? Again, got Hurley fired up, but incredible screen there by Cannon.
Yeah, that was nice. I like that. I mean, we talked about that, Chase. The physicality of this team right now has just been raised up. Every single person is buying in, and they are playing some physical basketball. They're not getting bullied anymore. I love seeing this. I love seeing screens like that. Let's keep going back to the chat. Shout out Benifer Lopez in the chat. Thoughts on Sentinel's run ending? If you didn't know, if you're on Twitter, NBA Sentinel, they have been reported. They got taken down from Twitter. This doesn't last, right?
I mean, I hope not. I hope not. It would be devastating. I mean, moment of silence real quick for NBA Sentinel.
I'm actually more sad about Sentinel going away than I was when Woj retired.
I have too, man. Sentinel's just odd. I mean, the stuff they were pulling. I mean, look, there's a lot of parody accounts. All right, we've had Ballsack, we've had Butt Crack, right? What NBA Sentinel did, they're undisputed GOAT. I mean, they're the queen of parody accounts. It's not even a
they're
question.
On another Mount Rushmore of all the parody accounts and everything. So rest in peace for now. Hopefully they can get back. Let's keep going in the chat here. Grant Farley said 3 straight games of 90-plus points. KY is proving why he is a wizard at offense. They're balling right now, man, and they're playing a great brand of basketball. And Chase, we touched on this in the Arizona game. You can really feel this team knows who they are, and they have an offensive identity right now. And it's beautiful to see, and it's beautiful to watch. And it's a really fun brand of basketball to watch right now because, let's be honest, early January and before, it really wasn't that fun to watch at that point. You'd stall, a lot of iso ball at times, and they finally figured it out, and they're playing really unselfish team basketball, and it's awesome to watch.
Yeah, you can see this entire team, much like we're talking about with Dawson Hall, just seeing the whole floor and seeing it unfold before you and making decisions. Like, everyone's in that. The actions they're running are meaningful, and they lead to stuff. And even when the first one doesn't work, they're so good at resetting. They look at the bench, KY gives them signal, yells something out, right? And then they can go and get a bucket. And the days of, a month ago when it was like, oh my gosh, there's 4 seconds left, like, let's just chuck something up, have, I don't want to say gone away completely, because there's 1 or 2 times that still happens, but they're a thing of the past. And the way that the entire offense is flowing right now is beautiful. And this is like what we've just been seeing with the potential of this team for so long, and to see it come to fruition is huge. And it's so fun to watch, man. Like, it's just good hoops. It's really good hoops.
It's really good stuff, man. Let's go to Nathan Hot Takes right now. He's in the chat right now. We're lucky we didn't need more than Saunders, Nell, Hall to have a great night. Lots of sloppy defensive play, but every night is the dogfight in the Big 12, and we scored 91, so I can't complain too much. Then he put the fire emoji in and said, if we shoot like we did tonight from the free throw line, we won't win a game in the NCAA tournament. 1,000%. You will not win a single game in the tournament if you shoot 40% from the free throw line. That is a death sentence typically. And then he also said, why was Best able to do so much damage to us? Because they didn't scout him. There's no film on this guy. He hasn't scored a point. And so when you don't have film on him, it's like, hey, I don't know how to defend him. I don't know what's going on. And he was cooking. He was confident, and shout out to him.
Yeah, and quick athletic guards are the BYU's weakness defensively. That is the worst matchup for them. And so he was quick. He's pretty lethal from mid-range. I mean, he had that one where he stole it and then had he was by himself, and I'm like, he's got to back this out, right? And he just pulls up from 11 feet. And I was like, that's an awful transition shot, but he nailed it. So I'm like, okay, I got to give him his props, man. Like, if you can hit him, but I was like, what are you doing? But he was nice for mid-range, dude. Just knocking things down. Yeah,
shout out to him. How did you feel about Bobby Hurley's his flop charge attempt?
Hurley's flop charge attempt?
His son, Bobby Hurley.
Oh, Bobby Hurley Jr.?
Because as a Duke guy, it kind of got something out of me. All of a sudden, I'm slapping the floor in my living room. I'm like, I like this.
The ghost of Bobby Hurley. It's whatever. It's college hoops now. I think BYU's got guys that do that. I mean, Trevin knows he's well versed in that universe.
He's getting in some dudes' heads.
Dude, people don't like BYU, man. Like, they go on the road, dude. These cats are annoyed with this team, and I think that's a good thing, Carter. Like, I think when you get under dude's skin, it's because you're playing dang hard and you're kind of kicking their butts, right? And like, that pisses dudes off. Like the ending of UCF, right? You have them screaming at the bench as they run to the tunnel. Obviously, what happened at the end of Arizona with the scuffle, you could just tell Arizona State didn't like them. I mean, the guy threw a freaking punch right at Trevor's face. Even Best, right, when he smacks Dawson Hall in the face, you can tell he kind of meant to do it, right? And he was
he was not close to that basketball.
He walked away. He wasn't complaining at all. He's just like, yeah, I definitely did that. But BYU they just have that kind of not a bad boy Pistons vibe, not that at all. But they just have that annoying Duke-ish kind of gosh, I hate these dudes, and you can tell that from the other teams.
I mean, call it like you see it, Chase. You see a bunch of white guys on the other side of the court, and
they're knocking down shots. Dudes. They're old. Yeah, they're married.
They're white dudes that are cooking you, and you're sitting there like, what the crap is going on? But anyhow, let's get back to the chat real quick before this gets off the rail. Shout out this guy. It's Actually, my father-in-law. Shout out Tom. I didn't recognize the username. Yegor was sloppy. Couldn't make a layup to save his life tonight. Yeah, the layups weren't falling, but the assists were. He had 10 assists tonight, so that's what we'll focus on there. And then
let's get some other questions from your father-in-law in this chat. Let's get deep.
Let's not.
Shout out Tom. Start firing out some questions for Karter that he needs to answer here on this Twitter live.
Might have to turn the air conditioning on a little more. It's hot over here. Clark said, agreed. I think our defense is my concern going into the big dance. Can we get stops when our shots aren't falling? I think they can, but I think that tonight was a different one because I think, even though BYU played well offensively and they're knocking down shots, I still think BYU didn't bring the 100% full intensity and that energy that we're accustomed to seeing because this is a letdown spot. And, this is a depleted Arizona State team and they're at the bottom of the Big 12. So I think it is human nature to go, all right, let's back off a little. You're not going to bring as much as you normally would against an Arizona or a Kansas. And it was a letdown spot. It was a trap game a little bit, but BYU answered, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to say BYU was toying with them at times because that's not how it was. No. And that's disrespectful to Arizona State. But you play down to your opponent, and there was absolutely just no film on half those guys. But I will say it has been a pattern over the last few games, right? You're just letting teams score a lot of points. And so, they do need to figure it out. If they're going to go dancing, defense is what travels. One cold night, kind of like last year's team, one cold night means you're going to lose. And so this team cannot become that. And there's been times when they haven't shot incredible and they've still won. I think it was the Kansas State game. They shot 26% from three. They still won the game, right? Because they were doing that other stuff and they played really good defense. Kansas State were their best defensive performances of the season. So they have it in them. They just, I think you bring that intensity. And obviously if you have more scouting and more time to figure out a team.
Yeah, they got it done. Doesn't matter. I think we see a much better defensive performance on Saturday against West Virginia at home. And, I mean, against a team, West Virginia, they're not lighting it up from beyond the arc or anything, even though they kind of did last time a little bit. But I'm excited for that game Saturday, Chase.
Me too, yeah.
West Virginia playing for their lives. Kind of a flip-flop of last time. I mean, last time BYU West Virginia played in Morgantown, BYU's on the outside of the bubble looking in, and they're playing for their lives. Now, West Virginia's still in at this point, but a loss to BYU, things are getting a little dicey in Morgantown.
Yeah, and a win puts them over the top. And look, BYU, they had the second meeting with Cincinnati, didn't go very well. That first game with West Virginia was dang close, so we'll see how they do. In Provo. We're going to go back to the chat here. Jack Carpenter says, stealing a hot take from my boy Nathan. Nathan, you're starting a movement. Shout out. Trevor Best will have a better career in WWE than basketball. It's a great name.
Yeah,
Trevor Best. Your jersey just says Best on the back, man. That's pretty.
Shout out all the Lions fan in the chat. Shout out Javid Best.
Javid Best.
Cal legend. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, Clark says, really good question here from Clark, says, curious what your guys' biggest concern is as the tourney approaches. Karter.
So defense is obviously up there just because, BYU has been prone to give up a lot of points as we've seen and sometimes can give up a lot of free throws in the tournament. And in the tournament, they call it really, really tight. And so that can be a problem. BYU, that can also be played to BYU's advantage. But on the flip side of all of that, if a game is getting called really tight, what do you got to do, Chase? You got to make your free throws. It's basketball 101. Free throws is my number one concern going into March because in a game, it's tight or whatever, and you get a 1-1. Even you're up 2 with a 1-1. You have a chance to make it a 4-point game. If you miss that front end of that 1-1, that's such a big momentum swing. BYU's got to be able to knock down free throws if they want to make a splash in March Madness.
Yeah, I totally agree. Those are the logistic things I would point out. Go ahead.
And it sucks because defense is something you can pinpoint to and figure out, how do you fix that? Offensively, you can figure out, how can we adjust and how can we play differently, or, different lineups and stuff. Free throws are just free throws at this point of the season and this point of these guys' careers. They can work on it in the offseason, but it's all a mental thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's as the tournament approaches, right? And whoever BYU gets matched up with, my biggest question, I've been harping on this all season, mentally, how are you going to show up energy wise? I think BYU's really settled into, and we've seen it through this 5-game win streak, they've really settled into the physicality, the pace, everything of the Big 12. But guess what? Like, different conferences are different, man. If they match up with an SEC team, guess what? That style play is a little different. They're going to bring a different edge. Big Ten basketball is a little bit different. They play different styles. And so I think they settled in here to Big 12, and they show up for games. They come out hot. They're ready to play. When you come to the tournament, man, it's been weeks without it. Not weeks, but it's been a long time without a game. You're playing in a cold gym, like you always say, like 10 a.m. Like,
ball's a little overinflated.
Yeah. Your depth perception's off. You're playing in a bigger arena than you're used to, and you're going to have to get up and match the physicality, energy, and everything else about this team. If BYU does that, if they set the tone, I like them in any single game against any single team. Like, even if they are not shooting their best night, like, if they just have that physicality, that mentality, that confidence, I like them against anyone. So that's, from my perspective, the biggest, I wouldn't even call it a concern because they're doing so well at it right now. But if they were to lay an egg in the tournament, I think that would be the reason.
Can I bring up a dumb one, like a dumb concern that, has no credence to it whatsoever?
Yeah.
So, the whole BYU football plays terrible during the daytime, and at nighttime they're way better, the Vampire Cougs and everything. BYU plays a lot of their basketball games at night. They've only played a couple during the day this season. Playing at Thursday at 11:30 Central Time in Wichita, Kansas. I don't know. Maybe something to point out, even though it's maybe the dumbest take I've ever had.
No, it's it throws off your routine, man. You're used to that 7:00 tip off. You got your day down pat, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I'm waking up, headed to the gym earlier than I'm used to, eating breakfast. That's sitting like a rock in my stomach. I'm nervous. This is going to be a big moment for a lot of these guys. The first time they played in it. So yeah, I mean, that's something to point out.
Yeah, and another thing is, based on what's going on in the Big 12 standings right now, it's likely BYU is either going to be the 4th or 5th seed, and so they're guaranteed to play. If they're the 5th seed, they're going to be at that 11:30 Central tip-off, and so 10:30 Mountain Time. So if you're looking ahead and you see they're going to be at that 11:30 Central tip-off, and so 10:30 Mountain Time. So if you're looking ahead and you're working a 9-to-5 job, you look ahead and you go, all right, I need to have a dermatologist, dentist appointment, whatever, scheduled at 10:30 Mountain Time on Wednesday or Thursday because BYU is going to be playing at that time. So you got to leave work early. We'll give you a permission slip, whatever you need, so to be able to watch BYU in the Big 12 tournament right there. But let's keep going through the chat. Shout out Jackson Payne, legend. BYU's offense has improved as Kevin Young has fully embraced the power of the Wasatch. Let's move on. We got E-Dub. Shout out to our guy. I need to see a Foose apology form for a few people to fill out. Wow.
We probably need to maybe participate in that a little bit. I thought today was a good Foose day, and I even said to you, I think in the first half, I texted you, I was like, this is a Foose game. If there's ever going to be a Foose game, it's this. And it's just because he had the matchup. I think he was much more physical than those guys down low and had a good night. His best in a while. I mean, 10-4-1. I do still cringe sometimes with his defensive possessions and sometimes with some rebounds. But I'll always love Foose. I will always love Foose. And he's still probably maybe not now that Richie Saunders is who he is, but he's one of the best chances at a bucket at any given moment. So.
Yeah, and tonight was a game that really fit perfectly for him where it's, okay, a depleted team, kind of undersized, not as physical. I mean, he was getting it on early in the first half, getting to his spots and knocking down that baby hook early, and I think that gave him confidence because last few games he's kind of struggled with that baby hook a little bit, and happy to see him knocking that down right away. And then E-Dub said, Bobby Hurley Jr. pulling a Quinn Cook. I love it. As a Duke guy, I love it. Shout out Jack Carpenter in the chat. Avid Cartercast listener here. Shout out. Go subscribe. Remember a couple weeks ago, people were saying there aren't enough villains in college basketball. If BYU fills that spot, so be it. Chase, are you okay accepting that BYU is a villain in college basketball role?
I personally am. Absolutely.
Well, okay. Well, you were a Patriots. You've been a lifelong Patriots fan.
Get out
so
of here. You're a Duke fan. What are you talking about, dude? What are you talking about?
Patriots are more evil.
No.
Yes.
Get out of here. No, they are not.
People like
Patriots
to do
are
this.
not more evil than Duke.
The people like to do this revisionist history on how cute Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were, and like, oh, wasn't it so fun? No, they were a boring football team to watch.
Duke. There's a 30 for 30 about how people hate Duke. It's Duke and the Yankees. They are 1-2. It's undisputed. The Astros
Patriots.
had their moment. The Astros had a Linsanity run. It's over now. It's the Yankees and Duke. They'll always be the most hated. This isn't debate.
I think Cowboys hate is out of here. Oh, shout out Jackson in the chat. Patriots 100% more evil.
Jackson doesn't know anything. Jackson doesn't know anything.
I mean, if you're actually cheating in a sport, that's the problem. Okay, all right.
Duke might be 1-1. It's the Yankees and Duke. It's always been that. This is insane. I don't care if we have this conversation.
Do you want BYU to become a villain in the sport?
I don't know if I want it, but I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you become a villain, you're likely just good.
You're good, right? Yeah. People hate greatness, man. I'm not saying like I wish BYU would, but I would be fine. I'd be totally fine. I think there's some BYU fans, people that feel, they I don't want to say fans specifically. I have no one in particular, but BYU as an organization, as an entity, probably would hate that, and they just want to be liked and come across as the cushy, nice, in your face, and that's what everyone has to say about BYU, right? Every opposing coach we hear from is just always like, they're so dang nice. The fans are great. They have a great crowd and it's family friendly. Bill Self had nothing but nice things to say about coming to Provo. So the whole villain thing will probably never happen as far as like other teams. But maybe the national perception and the Twitter world could start seeing BYU as this villain. They got the Arizona call. They're so annoying, blah, blah, blah. It could happen. But I wouldn't say I want it. No. If it does, whatever. So
we are getting to a point where BYU might have more hateable white dudes than Duke.
I mean,
because Cooper Flagg isn't hateable.
He's not hateable, dude. You cannot love Cooper Flagg. Type in the chat if you actually hate Cooper Flagg, although I just would be dumbfounded if you do. And who do you hate from BYU, Karter?
Well, that's a terrible question. It took me 2 seconds to process. So wait.
He was about to spit something out.
He's going gotcha journalism. I don't care. I don't hate anybody on this team.
I know
you're an anti-Townsend Triple guy. You're like, I don't want to see Townsend Triple minutes. And that bothers me.
I'm the biggest
Townsend Triple
fan.
stan. This is a shout out Townsend Triple. We are a huge Townsend Triple podcast. But anyhow, let's go back to the chat real quick. Shout out our guy Spencer in the chat. I know most of us are expecting us to finish 2-1. What's the difference seeding wise for going 3-0 in March Madness, depending on the Big 12 tourney wins? What are your guys' thoughts here? So we can dive into this super quick. If they go 3-0 and make, let's say they run the table. Let's say they go 3-0 and then somehow pull off a Big 12 tourney run and win it. There's a real chance you play yourself up to that 5 seed depending on what the Big 12 tournament wins are. Because if you're beating a team like Houston on a neutral court, Iowa State or Arizona on a neutral court, you might have a path of playing Iowa State in your first game if you have the double bye, and then you got to go play Texas Tech and then Houston in the final. That is 3 Q1A wins that are top tier. That bumps you up a couple seed lines. I think you could get to that 5 spot, to be honest.
I agree. I think that's, if they go berserk here, the most realistic thing to me right now, if they go 2-1, and even if they go 3-0 and then say lose to a good opponent in the Big 12, I think actually no. If they go 3-0, lose to a good opponent Big 12 tournament, I think they're a 7 seed, Karter. Winning that Iowa State road game, I think that would put them at 7. Most realistic here, you go 2-1, you lose to Iowa State, you have a whatever performance in the Big 12. Maybe you win one game, then lose the next against a good team, whatever. You're at 8 or 9. You're on that seed line. I think pretty much locked up if that happens. Unless the Sunday thing it gets trippy, which you never know. Who knows? I don't know what's going on at this point. So I guess you'll never really know until Selection Sunday.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts right now with 1, 2, 3 seeds jumping all over the place right now, and teams like Florida and Alabama losing, Houston popping up, but obviously BYU Houston it would be very unlikely they end up meeting in the second round. If they can avoid that at all costs, they would. And BYU would likely get bumped down a seed line so they can play in that Sunday or in that Thursday, Saturday, and void the Sunday stuff. So yeah, we could easily see them get bumped. There's so many moving parts here, but I think the most realistic scenario is like you laid out, 8-9, and then if they, depending on the Sunday rule, they might get bumped down to a 10 or even an 11 if it, depending on what's going on around them and everything. So, but even
How ticked off would you be if you're a 6 seed and they're just like, oh, we gave you BYU?
So
Like,
wouldn't
what?
they just? I think because it's kind of what they did with Duquesne last year, where Duquesne was technically a 12 seed, but they bumped them up to an 11 so they could play BYU.
Right, but I mean, who would you move so much? Because BYU's playing like a 7 seed right now. Like they're playing that good.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how much you can move a team. Whoever gets BYU in the first round is going to be like, what? This is an awful draw. Like BYU is that team now. That's just who they are.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, who would you rather face right now, BYU or Kansas?
You'd rather face Kansas. I don't think that's crazy to say. I don't think that's home
Not at all.
of us. That's just being observant, man.
No, this Kansas team has 1 foot out the door at this point. I know they won their last 2, but really watch what's going on there at Kansas. I mean, we all saw the BYU game, but anyhow, I think we nailed that there. Jack said at least Carter's from North Carolina. Shout out. I am from North Carolina, so reason I am a Duke fan. And hey, Chase, so you grew up in Southie?
How do you like them apples?
Yeah, I was about to say, are you Matt Damon? What's going on here?
Dude, we don't need to talk about this. All right. This is a BYU basketball podcast. I will say this, though. Clark says, big 3 enemies are the Yankees, Pats, and Bama football. Look, I agree with all those. Maybe like 7 years ago. Okay. Everyone hates the Chiefs more than the Pats now. That's just a fact. All right. It's changed. Patriots stink. And Jack says down below, not fun to hate on the Pats anymore because they suck, which is true. But I'm just going to say a little off topic here. Watch out for this next season. 10 win Pat season incoming. But you got to include Duke in that list. Bama, Duke, and then it's Yankees, Patriots. Yeah, for a while, but Chiefs has overtaken that, right?
I don't think Duke's is hateable anymore without Coach K and John Shire.
Stop. You're biased. I mean, I agree. Like this rendition of Duke is like the most enjoyable of my lifetime. Like I really love watching them. I think they're all actually really good characters. But like Duke for 30 years, Carter, 40 years has been the face of hate in college basketball.
The Patriots were the face of hate in the NFL for 20 years.
Yeah, but they're not anymore. But
that's what I'm saying. Duke's not anymore.
Well, then who's your most hated college basketball team right now? Is it UConn? Because
it's Hurley. Yeah.
That's fair. And they're back-to-back. Yeah.
It doesn't help that they suck so bad this year because I think if they have a really good season next year and then they lose, like they get upset in games, I think everybody's going to dunk on them or whatever. We don't have to talk about Dan Hurley. This is a BYU podcast. His comments, if go on Twitter, Field68 posted it. His comments on the Twitter stuff piss me off. Calling them
Dan Hurley for Carter is number 1 hated human. He's 1-1 on the list of people on planet Earth
no.
as far as hate goes. You can't stand Danny Hurley, dude.
No, I don't. No. I'm not a fan of terrorists, Chase. I'm not. You're saying that's terrible. You're putting me in a bad spot.
Oh my gosh, we're live.
Let's go into the chat. I'd rather face UVU than BYU from Jackson. Shout out the Wolverines. Can't wait to be there on Saturday. And then Jackson said, Titans, Kings, and Cincinnati Reds, big 3 of sports villains. Yeah. Nolan said, no mention of the difference getting 10 assists. I mentioned it earlier, but it was very quickly, so I'll mention it again. Shout out Yegor, his 10 assist night. Missed some layups tonight, had a couple silly turnovers, but that's the name of the game at this point. He had a really good game. I thought he was finding guys, and I thought he played his game and did what he needed to win. Shout out Yegor, 10 assists, great game.
10 assists is awesome. He was my pick for MVP. Obviously, wasn't right about that. So shout out you win this round. But we did kind of talk about this potential for double Yegor night. And I think if he makes a few free throws, layups, we're talking about that. Regardless, though, not a bad game for Yegor when you have 10 assists. Can't complain,
Yeah.
especially with the way everyone shot. Never complain.
Even with the missed layups, stay aggressive. Keep going to the basket. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with missed layups. Just keep going. Nathan Hot Take said Pat's coming up big with that Travis Hunter draft pick, Chase.
Hey, Nate, I'm reading down the chat. I think he's a Boston guy with me. So shout out Nathan Hot Takes. Our bond's even stronger now. Also, Clark's a Duke fan, so no wonder he's excluding him off his list. So
I knew that. Clark and I have followed each other for a good minute now. I'm a Clark guy.
I'm now just learning that. But Folky, yeah, I kid you not, Folky. I gotta be honest with you guys. I got that Utah State game on right to the left of me. It's Carter's face, and then the beautiful face of Mason Falslev and Spencer Johnson's younger brother. And Utah State's gonna lose this game, Carter, down 15.
Yeah, that's a big win for Boise State on the bubble right now.
Huge
I don't know if
win
that
for Boise State.
puts them over because these SEC teams are just winning these insane games, and so like you're basically like, if you're Boise State, you're like, I'm fighting on the bubble between Carolina right now. Other point is, talking about BYU, how awesome is it that we're not talking about BYU bubble stuff now? Oh my goodness, I hated talking about bubble. No, we don't have to deal with that. Lenardi's bracketology. Only thing we're looking at is, okay, is BYU going to Wichita, Denver, or Lexington, Kentucky at this point?
Yeah, this is the way to go, Carter. This is there's some like interesting storylines. You might argue it's more exciting to be on the bubble, but it feels a whole lot better to just be in the field. So, big wins from Vandy and Georgia pretty much lock them in at this point. I mean, they're just like taking over the bubble right now. It'd be hard for someone like Boise State to pass them. I wonder what this loss does for Utah State. I mean, they weren't even favored in it. I believe it's a quad one game, so it shouldn't be too bad.
And then meanwhile, over in Winston-Salem tonight, Wake Forest just pulls it off again. Seth Greenberg. This isn't a full college basketball podcast. Let's get back to the BYU stuff. Let's get back to the chat, Chase. What do we got?
It's the chat. We're just responding to the chat. Well, Nathan says, my wife has me joining all the Boston sport fan bases, so I'm actually pulling for Vrabel to make a big splash. Shout out.
Whoa, wait. Read that comment one more time.
He says, my wife has me joining all the Boston sport fan bases, so I'm actually pulling for Vrabel, make a big splash. So it sounds like his wife's a Boston sports fan. Nathan, you're a good man for following your wife in that endeavor, and welcome to the family, brother. I think we're in for a treat. I mean, you can't go wrong rooting for the Celtics.
Come over to the dark side. Over to the dark side of the Charlotte Hornets, baby.
Enjoy the Hornets. Get you some LaMelo Ball.
I feel so bad for my wife. She was like, she could have married someone, and she could have married a Chiefs fan. She could have married anyone. No, she had to marry a Charlotte sports fan. She's sitting there watching Hornets games and Panther games. I'm sitting there screaming at Bryce Young, like, no, Bryce is still the guy, even though he's getting benched. We're flying to Panther games but shout out the Panthers. It's their year next year.
You're reminiscing about the Mick Bob Roberts freaking Bobcats days.
Jeremy Lin coming off the bench.
I don't mean this as a dig, but it is the saddest sports city in America. So I do feel a little sad for your wife having to marry into that. I don't mean that as a dig.
I think we've got the coolest colors in sports, though.
Yeah, the schemes are pretty. They're unique. They're cool. They're cool.
Hornets jerseys are sick.
Depends on your taste, I guess. Get by the Panthers.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh, all right, get back to the chat.
What? All right.
Get back to the chat. No Hornet slander. I deal with that every single night watching
Real
the
quick,
NBA.
Saddest sports cities. Charlotte 1. Is it Minnesota 2?
At least Minnesota's got.
And then, dude, is Dallas making a push? Is Dallas cracking top 3 with the Luka Cowboys combo? Rangers stink now, although they do that at World Series a couple years ago.
They're at least relevant.
Yeah, but man, they're all in rough spots. All right. Anyway, Jack says Cowboy was winning the Super Bowl this year.
As we say that,
true Cowboys fan. Sorry, I think you stuck Jack top 3, Dallas. All right, back to some actual BYU basketball here. Shout out our guy Ronnie Weave. Ron Weaver, go follow the man. Ron, the 3-man weave. Said double bye is a real talk with Iowa State losing. This team is starting to resemble the 2019-2020 COVID team, Sweet 16 maybe. That's actually a good comparison, Ron. That team really especially towards the end of the season, were peaking hard and it felt real Team of Destiny-ish. BYU's getting to that point, Carter, where the things that they're doing, the way their offense is looking, you start thinking a little crazy. And the double bye is super real. I mean, if you beat Iowa State, the double bye is yours to lose.
Yeah, and during that 2020 season towards the end, it felt like anything Jake Toolson threw up there, it was going in, and it feels that way with Richie Saunders right now, and you have TJ Haas was the facilitator of that team, and you got that, and Yegor Demon and Dallin Hall, for being honest. This team's more talented than that one. I think that's a great comparison by Ron.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I want to go back to chat, but they're all talking about...
Let's go to shout out St. Louis Cardinals in the chat. He said, do you think BYU was out-hustled tonight? I think there is a case.
Oh,
maybe
I think there's a case too. There's some times where I felt like they should have dove on the floor and it maybe looked like Arizona State wanted it more. They definitely were moving out there more fluid, maybe with even more energy. I just think BYU was confident and they moved with that, which if you're confident, you kind of, you pick your spots maybe a little bit more. And there is a case though. He's got a point.
Chase, I felt like this was I was watching a Celtics-Nets game almost, where the Nets are playing a bunch of G League dudes, and if you put G League guys on the court, they're going to put 200% effort on the floor. And so, but the Celtics, they've kind of been hot, and they're a great team. Obviously, they know they're the better team going into this game, and Celtics kind of play with their food a little bit. Kind of had that same resemblance tonight in the BYU Arizona State game, and BYU got a win.
Great comparison. And the fact that BYU came away, this was a lot of these guys probably tryout. They're fighting for minutes. They're putting tape for future teams or next year's Arizona State team, whatever. So a lot of these guys got their real shot, and they make the most of it. So
where do you think Bobby Hurley Jr. ends up? I want him on Duke so bad.
Iona? I don't know. Wherever his dad goes, probably, right? If he's not at Arizona State next year, it's probably my guess.
Let's get him as a walk-on. Let's get him as a walk-on in Durham, North Carolina right now. Let's go back to the chat. The chat's going off topic right now, so let's just roll with it.
I don't hate it. Alex Beach, he's from Minnesota. Sorry, Alex. Not sorry. I'm sure Minnesota's great, but he says, it's to be from Minnesota, it is the most distressing sports state. Good enough to break your heart. I do feel for the man. Being a Minnesota fan is tough, dude.
Yeah.
Coming from, this is a Charlotte fan right here.
Yeah, because at least the Panthers, they made 2 Super Bowls, but was it against the most rigged Super Bowls? You're going against Peyton Manning in his last Super Bowl ever. You're going against the Patriots, and they're probably filming your practices and stuff tough opponents to go up to in your 2 Super Bowls. But yeah, Minnesota, man, shout out. I feel you, brother.
Yeah. Honestly, my heart goes out to you. Here's what I've told Carter a few times. He never will do it. I give everyone in life a once in a lifetime, you can switch allegiances. You can switch the city. Go to it, pick a different one.
No.
But you have to stick to it for the rest of your life. You only get one time. I'm just saying, you don't have to. I'm just saying the offer's on the table, right? So if you're a Charlotte fan and you're seeing the future and you're like, I just would love to root for someone who has a chance someday. I'm just giving you a shot. Alex, I give that to you as well. I respect if you stay. You probably will if it's your hometown, and I respect that as well. But I'm just saying, I think everyone deserves a shot to switch.
That's a Boston sports fan from Colorado talking right now.
What are you talking about?
If you're born from that city, you root for those teams growing up. You spend the rest of your life in misery rooting on those teams. That's how it goes. That's what makes it so much better. If I were to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to switch into being a Chargers fan, and the Chargers go on to win the Super Bowl next year, it would mean absolutely nothing. I have been through the darkest of days with the Charlotte sports franchises. The second those teams have success, it's going to feel 100 times better than a Celtics title.
I think you'd have more fun watching your team go win a chip. I don't care who it is. I don't care how long you've been rooting for them. It's just more fun, dude. Would it be more meaningful if Charlotte were to eventually win a chip? Absolutely. Of course, because you have spent your entire life. But it'll never happen. That's the point.
That's asinine to think that. The Panthers can win a Super Bowl in my lifetime. That's crazy talk. They were 15-1. They went
they
to
had
the Super
Superman
Bowl.
on their team.
They had 15-1. They're one game away. They've been to 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime. They have Bryce Young. He's going to be the savior of this franchise. We don't have to get into that. Chase, I'm telling you right now, I haven't checked the chat yet, but I can guarantee you people are going to vehemently disagree with you. You stick with your teams.
People are vehemently disagreeing with me.
That is the biggest L take.
I thought it was being nice, man. I'm just saying.
No.
I think everyone deserves a second chance. That's all.
No. I mean, shout out Jack in the chat. He's a soccer fan too, as well. Like I've woken up at 5:30 a.m. to watch a crappy Liverpool team for a ton of years of my life, and now they're finally good. I get to enjoy it. It's amazing watching Liverpool games. That's all I have right now, basically. Shout out the Cougs and Duke or whatever, but like Liverpool's balling right now. But Jack said you probably want SGA to win the MVP over Jokic, don't you, Chase?
I don't. I want Tatum to win it. He won't. So I'm a Boston fan for the rest of my life till I
Type
literally
some
die.
L's in the chat from this guy, man.
Get out of here. I know what it's like too. I know what it's like. I don't want to hear this whole like you're spoiled because look, have I seen a lot of chips in my day? Yeah, it's been awesome, but I've also stuck through the crappy times. I had to watch
like a year of crappy times.
I had to watch Jared Solinger and Jonas Jerebko play the front court.
You want to play
82 games?
Oh, only 82? I've had to watch 820 games of that. Like, what are we doing here? 82, one bad season of Jared Solinger. Get out of here. Get out of here.
The Celtics rebuild was real, dude, and I lived it.
Oh, the rebuild was real. A year and a half. Brad Stevens turned that thing around quicker than me eating a whole pizza.
Because he's the GOAT. I'm not going to sit here and try to argue that I was more miserable than you. That's pointless. I don't think anyone's more miserable than Charlotte sports fan. I'm just saying I do know the feeling. I've been there. I've stuck through hard times. I'm doing it right now with the Patriots. All right? So I know the feeling. I know what it's like.
It's not even that.
I stand with all of you
for the Pats.
I stand with all of you.
The Pats actually have a future. You haven't been in the true dead end of like, I don't know what we're going to look like in 10 years.
Mac Jones was my quarterback 2 years ago.
Yeah, he went to the playoffs
3 years ago, and they got blown out. That next year, dude, it was miserable. Bailey Zappi was starting games.
Yeah, I understand that, but then right around, you get your franchise quarterback, Chase, man.
Yeah. Some people can draft. I'm not gonna
Let's go back to the chat real quick. Ron said Karter is right. When the Bulls win a title, I'll probably be 90 in a wheelchair cheering from a nursing home. You're right. The Hornets, I'm going to be sitting in a wheelchair at 95 years old, hopefully, if I make it there. And I'm sitting here being like, let's go. The Hornets finally did it. It only took 95 years of my life. Jack said when Tottenham wins a trophy, it'll be the greatest day of my life. One day. Apparently Harry Kane wasn't the problem. St. Louis Cardinals said in the chat, if they stay, do you think Crawford and Kozlowski will actually get minutes next year? I'll be 100% honest here. Probably not.
It's a hard-hitting question, like a good one to ask, but I'm probably with you. Like, if you're Crawford, you play point guard. Dawson Hall will stay most likely, and then BYU is going to go look in the portal. They're going to go in the portal. So, unless he really shows something in these offseason workouts, and the BYU is like, we just love this guy's development, and we really like sophomore season, probably not. With Kozlowski, there's a little more potential just because I think his position is more versatile to get some playing time, but we would need to see like a jump of like he need to get bigger, he'd need to develop, right, become a reliable shooter and have a little bit of a bag. So I don't know. Like, I don't see practices. I don't know what these guys are thinking about these dudes, but they recruited them and, they're respectively 4-star recruits themselves. So maybe, I don't know.
I just don't think the minutes will be there for them wanting to stay. We don't know personally, don't have any inside information on this, but I just feel like, with what's coming in next year, they're going to go into the portal and probably grab a guy or two with people leaving. And then they're probably looking at the situation and go, you know what? I just want to play ball. I want to be able to get some minutes. And so, and if they do stay, it's probably going to be limited minutes again. It's going to be more than what they're getting right now, obviously, which is basically next to nothing. But I don't think it's a big jump in minutes.
Probably not, especially with considering who's going to be on the team next year, right? And what BYU is going to be doing. But we're always rooting for those guys. So I hope you're proven wrong.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jack Carpenter. Listen, man. I did have to watch Jared Sullinger. All right, it wasn't fun.
What was their record that year?
I couldn't even tell you. It wasn't pretty. Probably like wins in the high 20s, maybe low 30s.
Have you had to watch a tank season ever?
That was it. That was the tank season. I've watched multiple Patriots tank seasons. The Red Sox are like the most frustrating franchise in sports.
Don't give me that one. That's like me saying I'm watching the Mets. We're not watching baseball, brother.
I'm watching. Well, I'm not watching regular season baseball. No,
we're not.
I'm not watching
those
games.
Watching baseball.
No,
that's a check your ESPN app and you go, oh sweet, they won. All right, next question. Shout out our guy Clark in the chat. How do you like our chances to win out in the regular season? Look, man, the way BYU's playing, the way they're shooting the ball, how confident they are. 2 home games out of the 3. Iowa State is just, if you've watched them recently, obviously they lost to Oklahoma State. They've been spiraling out of control. West Virginia playing for their lives in the Marriott Center. BYU really wants revenge against Utah at home. I really like BYU's chances to win out in the regular season, Chase.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they've taken on their hardest, toughest stretch of schedule yet, and they've done really well, right? Obviously coming away with all those wins, and now you have the great golden opportunity here to get another huge win, take care of business at home, and walk into the sunset as the 4 seed, double bye. If I had to put it in like the percentage, I think it's better than not. I'd probably put it around like 55%, which is pretty dang good. So yeah, I it's just the way Iowa State's been playing, man. Like, they're vulnerable. BYU can beat that team. It'll be tough. Like, playing in Ames is no joke, man. Like, they did it last year. If you remember, BYU had a real shot to win that game and then pulled away.
I think BYU blew that game last year.
Yeah, they did. And so, like, it's a tough place to play, but the way BYU's been playing, man, they could pull it off. They could do it. So,
for sure.
If I had to like put money on it, like I think they finished 2-1, but chances 3-0, they're good, and I think BYU is capable of doing it. I wouldn't freak out if they didn't, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did.
Oh, before we keep going, I know it's very late in this podcast and we've been going on forever, but shout out to everyone in the chat. Love you guys. Shout out my guy Reggie listening. He's an avid listener of the pod, and a friend of mine asked for a shout out. So shout out my guy Reggie. He's subscribed to the pod. Thank you for all the listeners, by the way. You guys are the best. So we're not done here yet. We're going to keep going in the chat. We're here all night. Jack Carpenter in the chat, as always, our guy. All right, in all seriousness, do you think KY will stick with this 11-man rotation going into next year? If guys just want a ball, that might be a turnoff. Or is it just too circumstantial, basically? Or is it just to circumstances?
It's a really good question. My guess is the 11-man is a one-hit wonder. Because if you think about it, he didn't recruit any of these guys. Like, not a single one is his. Maybe like a couple of the transfers and like Yegor, Boscovich, but even those guys were, surprises and a little bit late. So I just think that this is something of circumstance with all these different talents and inheriting a lot of players, a lot of skill sets. And shout out to him for making it work. Like, I'm just so mad impressed that it does. But next year, with the guys that you'll have starting, the experienced mixed with the freaking star power that they will have, I'd be shocked to see anything more than an 8-man rotation.
Yeah, I think it'll hover around the 8-9-man rotation. I mean, I've never seen a team go so deep in college basketball and be successful. It's BYU and Duke this year that are going so deep into their bench and being successful with it. And maybe this is a new era of college basketball in a way, but I just think it's so difficult to keep guys bought in when they're playing 4 minutes a game, 0 minutes a game at times. And then like next game, you're playing 12 minutes a game, and playing that kind of hodgepodge basketball is a tough sell going forward. So I think the pitch obviously would be, hey, we're going to cut this down to an 8-9-man rotation.
Yeah, you can look at the minutes even now, right? Richie Saunders is the most valuable guy on the floor. He plays 34, 33 minutes a game. you're going to have AJ DeBonsta here. He's going to be probably putting up the same amount of minutes. Then, who knows at the center position, if you want to keep switching off like you're doing here, maybe Staten and Kaba, depending on how the roster shakes out. Your point guard, if it's Dallin starting, he'll probably play just as much, probably maybe a little bit less than like Richie and those guys, whatever the point guard you bring in. So I just think he'll just have his guys. He'll have an entire offseason to really hash out who's who and what's what. But at the end of the day, the way he did this too, we didn't get to 11 man until just a few weeks ago. Like, it's not like this was an entire thing. He tried out the 8-man stuff. Like, we've seen it happen, but this is what works. And so if it develops into it again next season, then I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe that's just his thing, right? Figuring out this team and putting it together. So that's just my guess, but I wouldn't be shocked.
No,
11.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. But anyhow, anything else before we wrap up here?
No, just huge shout out to everyone.
This was a fun podcast.
This was so fun, and we didn't even this was awesome. We didn't even talk about anything ourselves. We were just reading chats for an hour and 10 minutes now.
And we forgot to take an ad break too, so that's going to be fun. We'll have to piece that one in the post edit, but that'll be all right. People are going to be listening at the end, be like, "Wait, there was random ads in the middle of a question."
Yeah, but shout out all you for real. This season's been dope, and this is just peaking at the right time. I'm having so much fun. I know you guys are too, so really appreciate you joining us on this journey. And shout out all you sticking with your crappy sports cities. You guys are heroes.
Oh, don't do that.
Wait, hold on. You guys are real heroes. And I honestly respect you. I don't even respect. I do respect you, but like, we're the same. Like, I'm doing the same exact thing as y'all. And so I get
you're
it.
doing the
totally
same
understand.
thing. You're doing the same.
I totally understand.
This is
Shout
such
out.
a slap in the face. This is such a slap in the face.
I'm giving props. I'm being respectful. I am. No, I mean it. Like, shout out for real.
Let's get out of here. Chase, we've only got 2 more games at the Marriott Center left this season. Very sad times, but that means we're in March Madness, the greatest time of the year. Oh, man, I cannot wait. We will be live. We'll be doing a preview pod. Actually, we're going to have to record that tomorrow. Alex in the chat said political type apology. I agree there. Yeah. They call him Kamala Rogers over there. And
Wait, Carter, we gotta come on. Let's hear the accent. Let's hear the
wow. Chase Rogers, this guy. Yegor Demon had a great night. 10 assists. But anyhow, all right, let's wrap up here. Shout out everybody in the chat. We'll be our preview pod will be out tomorrow. We'll do a quick turnaround. We'll get the West Virginia stuff out there. Got to watch some film again. And yeah, very excited. Stay tuned for that. Hit that subscribe button at Church Ball Pod on everything, at Chase_Rogers0, at Karter B8 on everything. Check out Karter Cast. We have an episode with Cole Adams out right now as we speak. We talked about mid-majors and Kemba candidates to look for in March Madness. A very, very, very fun episode. So tune into that. Check that out. And we will be back, honestly, tomorrow for a West Virginia preview. Can't wait.